Hey, what's happening? My name is Niami, and this is my vlog. I am going to record on my experience on volunteerism, service-based work, and what's coming up soon is my official first trip to the motherland. So I want to start out just by kind of giving you a little bit of background about me. So I'm a 35-year-old African, born in the American diaspora. I have no children. I'm recently married. I got married in September the 27th, 2014, to my husband, Francois. I love him dearly. He was like a godsend. I currently live in Burlington and Brattleboro, Vermont. I live in between the cities because I'm a grad student at SIT Graduate Institute of World Learning. The school is a focus on international working and humanitarian social justice work. Um, how I found out about the school was one of the recruiters came in 2013 to an AmeriCorps alumni mixer, and showed, the little recruitment tactic film about the school, and I got all pumped and excited about it. And I was like, that's where I need to be. But when I fast forward back in the early 2000s, I was living in Washington State. I had stumbled upon AmeriCorps first, and I stumbled upon AmeriCorps at a time where I was transitioning, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Someone had mentioned, actually, it was the financial minister at our church. He every Sunday he gave job leads, and he said AmeriCorps, all positions hiring. And I was like, all right, let me go check that out. And, at the time I was looking for work. I was doing temp agencies and, just looking. And so I went to the temporary agency and I applied for AmeriCorps, the whole tedious AmeriCorps process online. And I interviewed for a couple of positions and I ended up getting brought on to Washington Reading Corps. So that was my first year of service, but Washington Reading Corps as a tutor, as a reading tutor for children who were identified as struggling readers through K through 5. So that was like my first stint of real service work. So it was hard at first because you get a stipend in AmeriCorps, you don't get a paycheck that they tax, by the way. I think that's kind of bogus, but that's my own little comment on that. But anyways, I was in between states because I had finished my associates. I took a break because when I was working at the prison at the time, I had to postpone the schooling because my they purposely made my schedule conflict with working. So I ended up getting not expelled from school, but I got suspended from school because of my attendance. You can only miss a certain amount of time. And so I had to just put school in the back burner until I figured out exactly what I was going to do so that I could finish undergrad. So, anyway, the job at the prison didn't work out, and that's how I ended up collecting unemployment. And I was like, all right, whatever. But it was good for me. It put me back in a place of perspective where I could really figure out and focus on what it is that I wanted to do with my life. Because I was in my mid 20s at that time, I was 24, 25, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do at the time when I was working at the prison. And even before that, like the whole point of going to undergrad was just like, I want to go because I wanted to work for the federal government. I wanted to work for the feds and be in the middle upper management. I didn't know how that was going to happen, but that's just what I wanted to do because I thought that that would be good for me. That'd be a good life for me. I get some stuff under my belt, and I got to be like, yeah, I work for the federal government. I work for management, and I arrived. So in my brain, that's what I thought was success would be for me. Um, because to be frank with you, I never even thought that I would even go to college because no, it wasn't taught to me that I was gonna go to college. Like you are college material. I was never into academics like that. Truth be told, I wasted time in school. I don't even know why I was in school. It wasn't that I couldn't grasp concepts. It's just that once I was taught something and I saw that I could actually do it, I got bored with it and I'd forget it. But like, whatever. It's like, all right, I've learned this now. Can I learn something else? So I was not a traditional student in the sense that most traditional students are wanted in the public school sector where they want you to sit down, they want you to study, they want you to go home and do homework, and then you show and prove what you actually know, like you were actually paying attention. That wasn't the type of student that I was. Now, I did have a good dose of slackerism in me, but I was just bored, and, you know, in hindsight, I think about it now, I really could have benefited with just having, like, maybe a private tutor teach me and homeschool me up until the high school point, and then have me just take the test and then get a high school diploma from there. Like I was one of those type of students, and so I really feel bad for my teachers who had to deal with my slackerism, but meh, whatever. So anyway, back to the story. I did it my first year of AmeriCorps, and I struggled. I tried to work another job because with AmeriCorps State you can work part time, and that shit didn't work. Uh, when I wasn't tutoring, I was in my little cubby where I tutored, falling asleep briefly, and I was like, no, 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 I'm not asleep, I'm not asleep. But I could hear myself breathing. When you falling asleep and you doing the head bobbing like you listening to music. That was me. Um, but they were gracious. They were very very gracious with me. They were very understanding. They were not nasty to me, which I was actually kind of expecting. Like, oh, this damn volunteer, you gonna come up here? You supposed to be teaching our kids how to read better, and your ass up here sleeping. Like, you're really a good role model for children. But actually, the site where I was at, which I will may remain nameless, they were very nice to me. Not in the sense of, oh, we pity you, but more so of, allow me the leeway to figure it out. They're like, all right, you got some shit going on. We get it. You're not here for making big bucks. You're here actually trying to figure out what it is you want to do with your life while trying to make a difference. Like, they got that, and I appreciated that a whole lot because in regular standard jobs you don't get that. So anyway, I guess AmeriCorps was the first place where I saw people kind of foster growth. You don't see that in a lot of work professions, especially for people of color. And I'm not saying that that happens to all people of color, but from my perspective, from what I've dealt with and what I've seen, it doesn't always work out that way. So that was my first experience in AmeriCorps, but I did a lot that year. Let's see, I did a symposium. I wrote a play. I had one parent. It was just awesome. Like towards the end of the year, this one parent, she came up to me and she told me, she's like, I just want to thank you for everything that you did with my son. Um, it's because of you that he really enjoys reading more and he's more confident now and he's doing so much better and I've seen the progress and he talks about you all the time. She said he only does it 2 times. It's either because he really loves you or he really hates you. Lucky for me is because he really loved me, and that really touched my heart a lot because it's with the tutoring program, it was very repetitious. It was 20 minutes structured, straight structured, 20 minutes. You go in, you do their words, you do their sentence structure, and you have them read for you. It's bam, bam, boom, and then you give them a stick. It was like very structured and ordered. It was good though because like you got a chance to see where the kids were struggling at, and at the same time, you were like a coach more so. You weren't teaching them how to read. You were their coach. You were motivated them to like, all right, you kind of struggling with this right now, but I know you can do it. So come on, let's do this. Let's do this together. We're gonna take this get battle and conquer it together. And I felt bad for a lot of these young people because being told that you can't read when you're like 5, 6, 7, and 8, when shit you still just trying to learn about everything anyway, sucks. Like you shouldn't have that type of pressure on you. I was fortunate and blessed. Like my mom had me reading books like this when I remember digging into books to look at the pictures, and there'd be like two of them shits, and they'd be black and white sketches. So yeah, my mom, she, my father, both, they were adamant about not having illiterate children. So we didn't have that type of issue. So like, as far as English was concerned and reading and comprehension, I wasn't behind in that regards in school. But some of my classmates were, but I never really understood what they were going through until I did my first year as AmeriCorps as a tutor. Like that gave me this level of empathy for people who struggle with reading that I never experienced before, and it humbled me a lot. And it also really got me to thinking about my mindset of just wanting to make money and that's it. That's not who I was. And that kind of reminded me. Like, I really started thinking about the things that I was really passionate about when I was younger was writing, the arts, and making things. Um, and also, like, helping people, not as in the sense of being an enabler, but, you know, just like maybe working with people to just try to figure things out for the betterment of humanity. Those things made me happy. Those things gave me peace and they gave me joy. And being in AmeriCorps, that first year rehashed all of that different stuff. Not like AmeriCorps is like a big perfect thing, but it was a godsend for me because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was at a really interesting crossroads. I had been given everything that I wanted in my early 20s, like everything that I've ever wanted, that I've put out in the universe, that I've prayed for, that I've fasted for, everything that I wanted, I had gotten. Like God had given it to me. The creators had given it to me. I don't know what people's religious preference, spiritual preference, but for me, I believe in a higher entity. There's something higher than myself. Whatever label you want to put on, that's your business. But I had been given everything that I wanted, and I was still miserable. I was very miserable and very depressed. So AmeriCorps was like this door opener for me to really start digging into myself to see what it is that I wanted to do. So I did this first incredible year of AmeriCorps, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do a second year of this. It was like almost like I got addicted to it. It was like a drug of some sort. So I did a second year of AmeriCorps, right? Now, in interim of that, I was applying all across the country because I was trying to get out of Washington State. Like I had been on the Pacific Coast for almost 10 years, including when I was in the Coast Guard. And so I was just trying to get out. And so I was interviewing at other different places, and so I had interviewed this place in Corning, New York. I got to that bitch, I was like, the kid can't do it with 11,000 people. Corning, New York scared the shit out of me. I had never, aside from just like going to see my kin people in Oklahoma and them little small spit towns. Oh no, I couldn't roll with the Corning, New York. I was like, oh no, the kid can't roll with this. So like I went there, and the thing was, I was gonna live in Corning, New York, but the AmeriCorps position was split in half. So it was in part time in Corning, and the other part was in Bath, New York, which was even smaller. The biggest thing that they had there was the damn VA hospital. I was like, oh no, Jesus, oh no, I can't be bothered with this. It's like these dirt roads and shit. Like it was so small that like I took a train out there, right? And then the train gets you to Rochester. And then once you get to Rochester, you gotta get on a bus from there. I was like, oh hell no. So like the whole experience was crazy. There was a larger city because it was a college town. It was like about 10 miles away that had like 50,000 people. It was a college town, and I think if I wasn't so citified, I probably could have handled that, and it might have been good for me. Who knows? You know, but I was very close to my family, and like my big brother and sister-in-law were out there, and I still needed a support system, and I don't think I was ready to cut that umbilical cord just yet. It's one of the perks of being a younger sibling that has an older sibling always taking care of you. You know where the hand that feeds you comes from. So I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to let that go just yet. So when I got back to Washington State, I wrote a very cordial letter to the gentleman who interviewed me, who offered me the position. that unfortunately that I was not going to be able to take the position. And he was like, I understand, and the best of luck to you, Blase Skippy. Very nice guy. In hindsight, I kind of wish that I would have took it. I think that it would have been a better move for me, but that's neither here nor there. So I got offered a position and to come to Washington, which was very interesting. Um, because I did a lot. It was with World Vision, Kid Reach, so it was a tutoring program that was community based, that was ran by volunteers. So I had to go recruit schools, recruit the tutors, set up the program, train the tutors. I did all of that. So this was a lot more community based, nuts and bolts grassroots work. And I did that. This was through World Vision. And I did this. But it was a little scandalous stuff that happened. There was a person that they hired that was supposed to be my partner in this program. What happened is I did all the footwork. This dude who was he was like in Peru or Costa Rica or something. Um, he came back from his mission trip, and then when he comes back, they decided that they didn't need an AmeriCorps person after all. I was like, what? Come and say what? So you mother suckers had me doing all the fucking work, and then you had the person hired. So this white boy gets to just walk right into all the fucking work that I did. And he had the gall and nerve to send me an email. I was like, yeah, can you just send me an email to all those contacts and stuff that you got? I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get right the fuck on that. Send his ass Nathan. So that scandalous shit happened, and that put a real nasty, bitter taste in my mouth. I was like, for real, I did all this work for nothing. I was a little bit heartbroken for that because I really, really was digging the concept, setting up a little tutoring program for the kids in the neighborhood, help them out because I saw how well that, the structured program when I was in the elementary school really helped out the kids, who were really trying. Like, I was about them, and I thought that was a good idea. Well, I saw the dirty side of the nonprofit world, and it kind of bugged me a little bit. But I was like, whatever. So I was kind of neutral at that point, right? And so the second half of my AmeriCorps program was a kind of a to and fro-ish situation, but like I rolled with it. I was just like, what, it is what it is. So they had me do troubleshooting in the computer lab and on laptops and stuff. So I did that. Then they had me run the two computer labs, and because these are two brand new computer labs that were in the housing projects. These were kind of like the nicer housing apartment complex for the Tacoma Housing Authority. So I set up, library hours, and I set up research different softwares for the people to be able to use and check out, and like I started setting up activities, and it was just to make it functionable, make it almost kind of run like a real library almost. So they pretty much gave me free reign to do this, and so I just decided to make it worthwhile to be useful to all different people. So I was like, maybe we can have SAT prep classes here. Maybe we can have computer prep classes here for people who aren't even familiar with computer classes. I even set up like a social media class for the little youngins because at that time MySpace was huge, and so to get them off of MySpace, I found like a teacher structured type of kiddie MySpace where they could all use, and I could be like the administrator, and like we could do positive uses of social media. So like I did all of this type of stuff, and so let's see what else. I had a talent show, and we did other things there. Like, yeah, it was. I made it work, basically. And at the end, at our AmeriCorps at the end of the year celebration, the AmeriCorps graduation, I got offered to actually run the program. So that was really like, to me, that was like a big compliment because like they actually showed me that they were actually watching the good things that I was doing, and like they wanted me to stick around for a while and actually make good things happen better. But in the interim of that, I was kind of over Washington, and I definitely was over AmeriCorps in Washington State. Because like I said, that first part of the AmeriCorps for that year put a bitter taste in my mouth because I don't like being used. So I was actually about to graduate. I was about to graduate undergrad. I'd finished my bachelor's, and so I was about to leave. So I had signed up to do lay ministry with an organization called Catholic Volunteers of Florida. So I did that and got accepted, which was really interesting because at this time also I had formally denounced Christianity. Um, I didn't want anything to do with it anymore. I was like, you know what? I am a good person and I believe in a higher entity, and I don't think I'm going to burn in hell if I don't practice this religion. So I'm cool with it. So, and just funny how you just stumble up things like this. So I stumbled on this organization called Catholic Volunteers of Florida, which I didn't think they were going to, and I was a fluke because like I was just searching for what's going to be my next move. I was like, I'm done with undergrad. I got to make moves. I'm not staying in this state. And so I decided to move. I didn't know where I was going to move to, but I was going to move. And so I was sending out cover letters and resumes all across the United States trying to figure out where can she go. And this situation worked out, and it was a blessing because like in the program, like they pay for your housing, so you don't gotta worry about paying no bills. The only bills you gotta worry about is maybe your cable bill and your cell phone. Everything else is done. They got you. Oh yeah, you gotta pay for your ticket to get there though. They ain't paying for your ticket now. So I was like, you know what? Let's try it and see. I was like, if I don't set the nun on fire when I'm interviewing, then it might be well worth it. And so I went through the whole process and I explained, and I was like, I am not a Christian. Is that gonna be a problem? And they were like, no, it's not gonna be a problem. It's not about that. I was just like, bye. And so I did this program, and I got placed at an organization that's a youth homeless shelter in Fort Lauderdale. At first, I was supposed to go to Jacksonville, but that didn't work out. And then I ended up going to Fort Lauderdale, which was crazy because South Florida is party central. Oh my God. They don't call it Fort Lickerdale for no reason. Oh my God. I think sometimes I had way too much more fun. Anyways, good times. So I got sent to South Florida, but before that happened, we found out that my brother was going. He was going back to war. So this would be his second tour going back to war. And this happened right at the time when I found out that I was going to South Florida, that I got accepted for the position. And so I just remember, talking to my family, first talking to my brother, I was like, well, do you want me to stay? Because if he would have said, I want you to stay, I would have stayed there with his wife and my niece and nephew as an extra support for his family. Because, I mean, it's family. This is what you do. And he said to me, and I'll never forget it, he was like, you know what? As much as I would love for you to stay, Michelle will be all right. And he's like, and it would be selfish for me to tell you to put your life on hold for my family when this could be a great opportunity for you to go out to Florida. He was like, so go for it. And I was like, are you sure? And he was like, yeah, I'm sure. I was like, all right. And so when he said that, like, I was sad, but it also was a release because, like, deep in my heart, I also know I wanted to go. He knew I hated Washington State, but he also knew my loyalty to family. Like, I would have stayed if he was like, I really need for you to stay. I would have stayed. And he didn't do that. He was very selfless in that regard. I said my goodbyes to my family. He helped me pack up the whole fucking. I mean, he came through there like Rosie off of the Jetsons. He cleaned out the whole apartment, like from top to bottom. He's like, because I was so tired, like I hate moving. And like I was so tired. He was like, "We'll take a nap, and then we got to get back on this again." He trying to be all drill sergeant, because he's in the military. So I was like, "Okay." So, because remember, I had two graduations. I had my AmeriCorps graduation, and then I had my college graduation. So like I was just like out of it. I had no more energy for nothing. I went and laid down. He was like, "Go sleep for a couple hours, and we gotta get back up to it." I was like, "Okay." I woke up, man. That whole house was empty. Empty, clean top to bottom. He had cleaned the whole apartment. Like it was fucking immaculate. Like that's the type of family that I got. And so I was just like, damn, man, you the best. Because he knew damn well I didn't have no energy for that. Like I am not domesticated at all. Jesus help me. And that was my mom's era. She was all about that life. Am I'm still not. I'm still struggling. But I'm gonna be okay. But anyways, so he helped me get rid of everything. I packed. I came to Florida with my life in 6 suitcases. That was my whole life. I had given everything to Goodwill. Clothes, furniture, fixtures, bric-a-brac. I gave everything. Things that I couldn't bring with me that I wanted to keep, I put in my brother's basement. And that was it. And then I flew out to South Florida. And so then I started this new chapter as a case manager and as someone who no longer circumscribed to religion. So that was interesting for me. And so, like, I always had this desire to do a couple of things. One was to change my name. I never was a big fan of my name, mainly because it's Eurocentric, but more importantly, because people will never fucking pronunciate it correctly. Like those two reasons alone, I was like, well, god damn it, if I'm gonna have a name that people can't even pronunciate correctly, it might as well be one that counts from Mama Africa. Shit, at least it's, you know, I can, be nasty if you mispronounce my name because it has meaning, strong warrior, and lion, something like that. But my Eurocentric name, I couldn't really battle with that. I mean, hell, it took me a while to learn how to pronounce it correctly when I was a little kid. So I can't really expect anybody else to say that shit right, besides my mom and dad. So that was one thing. And then another thing was, I was really, in Washington, I was already on a soul searching quest of learning more about my history, learning more about what it means to be an African, brought over here in the diaspora. Understanding where I came from, understanding my roots, and what it means to be an African woman in America, and to wear it with pride, as opposed to being the bottom of the barrel as far as the desirable woman is concerned, as far as fitting the caricature, big, fat, mammy, loud mouth, neck rolling, no capacity to have any form of intellectualism whatsoever. Like, I was going through all of these metamorphosis crises in my brain and in my spirit all the time because I always found myself trying to defy stereotypes. Um, when I lived in Washington State, they're very big on interracial relationships out there, and which is that's fine, it's beautiful, love is love. Um, However, there's this caveat to that, which is within this paradigm of all these different interracial relationships, a lot of the black men, if they chose to be with a black woman, they treated her horribly. It's like stomping her down, it's like she's like nothing, and expect her to just be happy that she got a black man. Versus they go with a woman of any other nationality, they hold her up like she's up on a pedestal. Now I'm not gonna be foolish enough to say they all treat them that way, because that's not the say. Because I've seen some black men treat women of other ethnicities like pure shit. Like I didn't get it for the life of me. Like why these women stay with them. But this was like a big psychological thing that I saw out there, and so it always made me question myself. I was like, is there a certain way that I need to conduct myself if I want to be with a male of my own ethnicity, or am I gonna have to settle for the fact that it might not happen? And that those messages were getting thrown in my ears over and over again. You may not end up being with a black man. You may not end up being with a black man. That affected me all of about a good month. And then reality kicks back in because I got that black mama, I got a black daddy, which means I could probably have a black man if that's what I want to be with. It's all a mindset. And so I didn't buy into the foolishness of, oh, you have to be this in order for a black man to be attracted to you. What ended up happening is a lot of the brothers that I dated, they weren't from Washington State. They were usually from out of state. They were from elsewhere because I had just gotten out of the military. When I moved to the Pacific Northwest, um, in Washington State, there's a plethora of branches of service. You just roll the dice and you just pick one, and there you go. You got the Navy, you got the Army, you got the Air Force, you got the Coast Guard, a few Marines out there too. I like it, just like literally. And the city where I lived in the longest, which is well, the county was Pierce County. I lived in Tacoma and Lakewood the longest. So there's nothing but military men out there. And so those are the majority of the brothers out there that I dated, and they were from all over. Pick a place. That's probably where they were. So, and like, and even if they weren't in the military, they still weren't from Washington State. So like, there was a magnetism about me that attracted brothers from other places. So I didn't have an issue with that, but I saw it, and like, it still made me, it would be in my brain sometimes. I'd be thinking about that. I'm like, it's like, is there a certain way I need to be in order to have the brothers to show me some love? And then, I just kind of came to the conclusion that I just need to be a good person to me. Meaning, I need to be a lady to me. I need to be an intellect for me. I need to figure out who I am for me. I need to make my own money for me. I need to understand about my history for me. And all the rest of those things will fall into place. And so that's that's kind of how everything kind of formulated for me when I was in the West Coast. So like when I was out there in Washington, I learned a lot about myself, a whole lot. It was a very good growing stage for me. It hurt a lot, but it was a good growing stage for me. When I came to South Florida, ooh, oh baby, I went buck wild. Oh my God, I'm not even proud. I don't even care. I went buck wild when I moved to South Florida. I moved to South Florida and life was great. Palm trees, heat, fine brothers. I mean, good Lord, it was the chocolate factory everywhere I looked. It was just some hard chocolate body. Every time my head turned, I was like, Lord, Jesus. I didn't see that in Washington State. It was too cold. So, so just seeing that, and sister definitely never have a problem having a date out there. Like that was always nice. But once I got over the eye candy, that took probably about a good couple of weeks. I was starting a new job, and being with CBIF, that was the organization that I moved out there with. That really put me in another zone because it was lay ministry. You There were certain expectations of what you were doing. Um, what I did was case management with younger people, and it had the bearings and the resemblance of when I used to work in the prison, except for I actually cared about these people that I worked with. I cared about these young people because there was a reason the hardened personality. It's all a front. It was all a facade. And so I learned a lot about myself through them because a lot of the things that they did, I remember doing that when I was younger. Putting up walls, lying all the time, um, just trying to figure out ways to keep people at a certain place in your life to protect what was in here. And I learned a lot about myself again by watching their behavior. And I learned to take the small victories as being the bigger victories. Um, because I didn't drive at the time. I took the bus, and so I saw these young people all the time. When I went out to the clubs, if they just happened to be discharged and they was out hanging out, I saw them. They saw me in club attire and all. They were like, "Hey, miss," and I was like, "Hey," but I would give them a hug and embrace them. I'd be like, "Are you staying out of trouble? Are you doing good?" Like they would give me updates on how they were doing. Like it was a very human, humbling experience for me, and I appreciated that so much because for that experience and doing it, I needed to see a human connection experience. Not I'm going to a job 9 to 5 and that's it. I wanted more than that. Like, and you know, for a job like that, I don't think that you should do it if you don't really have a heart that want to see them do better. And so, I did it for almost 3 years. Like I did it 2 years Catholic Volunteers in Florida, and then I got hired on just to stay as staff. And I did it a little bit longer, and then I resigned. I was pretty much burnt out from case management. I was burnt out for a lot of different reasons. Working in that type of environment, it's stifling. It's depressing. Um, Seeing the same recidivism rate. You're seeing the same faces coming back over and over again. You're happy that you see them, but you wish that there's more that you could do for them. And unfortunately, that's more of like the place where I was at was more of like a triage type of situation. It's not. It's only set up long term for those who have the tenacity to go through that process and really stick through that process. It was only like a small percentage that went through that, and so that kind of bothered me. And also, I had started something there, theater wise, my theater program charades. I wanted it to get it further outside of the doors, and I was not going to be allotted to do that. And I respected that. That has a lot to do with privacy, and it's not what they wanted. And I was like, all right, okay, cool. So to me, like it was just a conglomerate of things, and just some personal things that I saw that were happening there that I wasn't too happy with. Um, when it's not your organization, there's only so much that you can do, and you just have to accept that for what it is. And so that's what I did. And, I prayed about it, and, I literally wrote out a list of pros and cons of what would happen if I were to resign versus if I was to stick and stay. Now, one of the things that I said when I was doing the lay volunteerism with Catholic volunteers doing the same position was that this was not a position that I could see myself doing to be paid real money for because it would take away the spiritual aspect of why I'm here. And I think that was my spirit bearing witness to myself of reality that I wasn't supposed to stay there in the first place. Um, but when I saw a position open, I was like, shit, I'm in this state. I've been here for 2 years. I ain't going back to Washington State. I know that. Um, my next logical move, the way that I planned it was that I'm going to go to grad school. After I finish this, I'm going to start my grad school program. That was always the plan. And so I started the grad school process, but I was just going to be an online student as opposed to being a student in the school. And I was just like, I can't go back to Washington. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not leaving paradise. I'm just not going to do it. So I stayed. And, you know, I was miserable. Like, I really, really, really I was just miserable. Like, the whole situation, I was miserable. And so I really took a step back, reevaluated my stance there, and I've decided, you know what? I'm going to resign. I think this is the right thing that I'm going to do. So I went down to HR and I talked with her, and she was just like, why don't you just take a weekend first, think about it, and then we'll just reconvene from there. I won't tell anybody about it. And, she was very gracious about it. And so I came back with an even bigger smile on my face because it was like after that weekend, it was just like Burton dropped off, and it was a confirmation. It's time to make your next move. And so I went in and I did it. I gave them a month to go ahead and fill in my spot, you know, so like it wouldn't just be like a lapse of just open space, and like it wouldn't be hard on other case managers. And then I moved on. I left. I came to Oklahoma to see my grandmother, not my grandmother, my mother graduate from college because my mom was in school and she graduated, and then also it was to say goodbye to my grandfather. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to him in person. He passed. He was already in hospice, so he passed that Memorial Day weekend, and so what turned out just to be a celebration turned out to be a celebration and a homegoing. And then so I stayed out there for a while with my brother for about 4.5 months, maybe. I was out there for a good little while because I was out there from May till the end of August. So yeah, it was like 4.5 months. And like within that point, like I had finally got tired of like not working and shit. Like I wasn't doing nothing. It was too hot in Oklahoma in summertime. Yeah, I wasn't doing nothing but like slurping on sherbets, orange slurpee from Brahms and gaining weight. I was like, oh God, I gotta do something. So like I went and got a job and I got hired at Dell um, as a temp for customer service folk. And I ended up getting a job in Miami at the same time. So it was like, bam, dual. Like, because I had been trying to get a job back in Fort Lauderdale while I was in Oklahoma. And then, like, that didn't happen. And then at the last minute, I got a job in Miami. And so I went to Miami. This time it was as AmeriCorps Vista. Oh, that job. That job was. That job was crazy. But anyway, I'm not going to say too much about that. Let's just say that it was very interesting. Learned a lot. I learned a lot of the more administrative end on the nonprofit. And in that process, I also ended up meeting someone who had their own nonprofit, who was very much a freelancer themselves. And I kind of learned about the ins and outs of how to establish your own thing as a freelancer in the nonprofit sector. So each step for me has been a process for me, and has been very good for me. And so after that encounter, I just decided to go full force for charades, and so I went to set up shop. I got an office in Miami, and I set up shop. I started going to networking events, and I started like putting out postings for my stuff, and it started going out full force with it. Now in this process, still, I was doing a lot of reading and knowledge of self because I really wanted to figure out where my focus was going to be at with these plays and these performances that I wanted to do. Like, I'm very black centered when it comes to my writing, but I don't state that. But that's what I have in mind, and that's what I wanted. And I guess I just want our stories to be told from a realistic perspective and not a stereotype perspective. And so that's what I focused on. By this time, I had also had chosen a new name. So as of 2010, I had renamed myself. That was actually right before I came to Miami. My sister-in-law and I, we were like looking up names because I had been looking up names for like about a year. Like, what would I call myself? What would be a good name for me? Do I want to have a name ceremony, or how does this all happen? How do people do this? Go through this whole process. So it was no longer kind of like a big joke of, I'm just gonna start going by another name. I was very serious about it this time. So we just stumbled upon the Adinkra symbols, and we were looking at each symbol and seeing which each symbol meant. So I came across Nyami and but the first thing I found was the last name. And to me, that's like the most important one. Um, so my last name was Fawahudi, which means emancipation, separation, and freedom. I was like, oh, I couldn't have picked a better last name than that. So, um, yeah, nothing to me was better than that. see somebody utter that last name, whether they wanted to or not. Instead of John Smith, you know, Ferger, some name that didn't should not have been attached to me. So that was the first one. And so I picked the first name, which is Anyami Nt, which means by God's grace, because I feel like by the grace of God, a lot of things have been bestowed upon my life, and I have done relatively well for myself, in spite of all of the craziness and madness that I've gone through. And then Aya means fern. A fern is a very strong plant. It's hard to uproot. For those who know me, they will definitely tell you I'm very headstrong, and that's not something that I'm really proud of. Um, Sometimes there's just some things in me I'm just like, no, I just can't let it go. But also, being hard to uproot, I also look at the value of that as not as being unwavering, not being moved so quickly to go to and fro like other people sometimes, or they'll just roll with the punches. Like for me, even when things get tough, I can dig my feet in and I'll weather the storm to move forward because I see the goal, I see the end result. So that I felt that middle name was very fitting for me. And so you have Anyami T. Aya Fawahodi. So that's my name. And now it's Anyamyati Aya and Sibianaka Fawahudi. And Sibianaka was my husband's last name, which means, what do you have? And so I made sure that I had his name first because he's my husband. Uh, so to me, it's an extra TV. So in Sibianaka Fawa, who do you get? What do you have? Which is in Sibianaka. And then Fawa Hudi is emancipation, separation, and freedom. So it's just like a pow pow, bitch. Thought you on me, but not so much. So, anyways, so charades was off and running. I was involved in quite a few things. Had the opportunity to write a script, an educational script for University of Miami Medical Health Initiative, a high school. Um, and this is where I knew I messed up. But you know what, you live and learn. I had the opportunity in this high school. The volunteer coordinator there, she told me that the theater teacher, he resigned for whatever reason. She told me that spot was open. She was like, "Do you want to come and volunteer during that spot?" It's like 40 students. Y'all, this was my Willy Wonka golden ticket to put my organization on the map because I already had skills, I already had the writings. I know how to get young people to do what the damn thing, and it's like bring it out of them. So, and do you know what I did? Y'all want to know what I did? I was like, no, I want the after school function. I don't want to walk in during that class segment. No. Yes, I said the N word. Nigga. If I would have did that, if I would have took that class opportunity, God only knows what would have happened with charades. I'm so like in hindsight now, when I think about what I did professionally, I was like, why? She served me something on a platter. Why the fuck did I just? Why? I wasn't thinking rationally though. See, when you don't have your business plan in order, I had a 7/8 done. I needed 8 out of 8 to be done with my business plan to be executed properly. Um, that let me know after that, and after it faltered and it didn't work out too well. Like the kids that I had some kids, I had like 11 or 12 kids in the afternoon, and then it went from 11 to 12 to like 2 or 3, and then finally they all just stopped coming. Had I had that guaranteed opportunity class, if I would have just went with that, God only knows what would have happened. So I screwed myself with that, thinking that the afternoon experience was the better experience. But what I realize now is that I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to make that full launch off with my organization. And I think subconsciously, I wanted to go the safer route just in case. And, in hindsight, I'm not glad, I would lie and say I'm happy, but I'm not. I'm not happy that I made that move. I'm I'm ecstatic that I was given the opportunity because it was a wonderful opportunity to get inside the schools the way that I wanted to with my theater program and to really like catapult my mentorship theater program. But you live and you learn, and that was a mistake that I had to bite that because even some people were asking me, they were like, "How did you manage to get inside the school system? It's hard to get inside the school system." I was like, "Shit, I know somebody." Like it was laid out perfectly for me, and I kind of screwed myself, and I felt really bad. And I swear, if I ever get that opportunity again, I will run with it. Let me tell you. So that is part one of my my history of service work and volunteerism, and then I will do part two momentarily.